Happy Monday, everybody. This is Deb from MadameStitch, and I'm here with,
Biz from Busy Crochet. Hi, everybody.
and we are dropping in the Facebook groups and on YouTube today to talk about the latest release in the Memories Blanket Cal, which is the Rustic Square designed by yours truly. And we're going to give you all the information you need to make your very own rustic square. I hope you all are having a great time with the blanket. I know we've said this on every occasion, but I am really loving seeing all of the blankets come. They're growing. People are making it through the hard stuff, and and everybody's celebrating all. That's the best part. Everybody's celebrating all of the wonderful things that they're seeing and helping
Yes.
when they can.
Well, and there's a few people who are, they purchased the pattern and have gone a little bit ahead. So it's kind of giving people that, oh my gosh, ooh, look what's coming, that kind of stuff. And good morning, Dawn.
Right. So we're going to talk about the square today and give you as many tips as we can to help you be successful. This is not a difficult square, I promise. It does have three colors. So, yes, you will have ends to weave in. But as we've said before, weave them in as you go and celebrate the end of that square and its addition to the blanket. That's what you can do when you weave in ends.
Yeah.
So, anyway. Biz, what are we gonna
Yes.
talk about on the Rustic
Well, so I
Square?
want you to talk about the square because I love it and I can say all kinds of things about it, but I want to know, like, because this is once again one of those, it's kind of stepping you out of your design comfort zone. What made you go in the direction of this where it's got that kind of little flower effect to it?
Right, so, about a year ago, I guess it was, I was asked to design a 6-inch square for a collaborative crochet along that happened throughout the year, and that I had just started thinking about, "Okay, I love simple, basic designs, but how can I up my game a little bit?" And you can probably only make so many variations of a granny square before you sort of run out of, you know, possibilities. So I
Yeah, it's
came
gonna
up with
start
the
looking the
idea
same
I
after a
this
while.
y yeah, and this is not a new idea. I mean, you will see granny squares and motifs all over the place that start with a circle and then build out to a square. But I went a little bit further and got myself some bright yellow cotton yarn, and I created a collection in my shops called the Sunny Day Collection.
Mm.
I've got a market bag that's done in a really nice, warm yellow color. I did a placemat last year and a coaster for my back porch, and it has that same concept of starting with the circle and then building out to a square. So when we were thinking about doing this blanket, I thought that's a perfect way to use more than one color in the square by starting with that circle and then building out. So
For
that's
sure.
kind of where I came up with and I found I'm in love with starting my square with a circle now. I'm using it in all kinds of designs and just sort of modifying what those circles
Mhm.
include.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you're a fan of mandalas at all, or mandalas, I know I say it wrong, but that's how they all start. So
Mhm.
your square, kind of gives you that feel of working in the circle. But I think my favorite part of the the way that you did yours is that it's a very subtle. It's not like I had to make petals to make it look like a flower.
Yeah.
It has a really nice stitch pattern that just kind of creates each little lobe of the flower without having to be overly done.
Mhm. Yeah, it's
Um,
actually very basic stitches.
Mhm.
Double crochet center, then you do double crochet clusters, then you do, the basics, single crochet, slip stitch, half double crochet, then you do granny stitch. And
Mhm.
I'll talk more specifically about how it's a little bit tricky when you work into the round before. So I'll explain that when we get to that part.
Okay. So, you said the double crochet clusters. So we just did clusters in section 2. How are yours different?
Mine are meant to lay flat. So your clusters were meant to be like baubles where they pop out.
Mhm.
I only have 2 double crochet in each cluster, which when you get to the second round of double crochet, you're doubling the number of stitches that you had in the first round. So to accommodate that, I only use 2 double crochet
Mhm.
work together and then put a chain between so
Mhm.
that all of that laid flat. I didn't want any popping out.
Mhm. The one thing that I always had a problem with, because I know you that in the written pattern in the PDF, it has charts for each of your squares. And
Mhm.
so that cluster shows up as it looks kind of like a set of parentheses. So that's what that'll
Mhm.
look like in that for you guys. But all right, so what are some tips and tricks that you can tell them about your square as far as like variations and what you said that there's a section that's a little bit tricky. So explain that to us.
Right, so the first thing I would say is the stitch counts are they're always important, but in this one, they're really important because
Mhm.
one round builds off the next, or
Yeah.
the one before. So you and what to get the final stitch count so that you're, sewing it into a strip and doing those edging rows to get 135,
Mhm.
their stitch counts have to be correct. So I'm going to kind of give you a few clues as to how to do that.
Mhm.
Rounds 1 and 2, I think, are self-explanatory, really not hard to figure out. Of
Mhm.
course, if you have a question about them, pop in the Facebook groups and ask, but those should be pretty straightforward. When you get to round 3, you're building out to a square. So I'll show it to
Mhm.
you. It's round 3 is actually kind of hard to see because in the center of it, the dark round.
Uh-huh.
It's really kind of hard to see because I've used a slip stitch in the middle
Yeah.
of that side to keep when you're working from a circle, the corners of the square have to be higher out than the
Yep.
middle. So to keep that even, I use single crochets and slip stitch.
Mhm.
Now, you'll find in round 3 when you're building that square out that you're working into the chain 1 spaces that you created from before, but you're not doing a chain 1 in between each stitch. So just be
Mhm.
careful. They're only at right after a corner and right before a corner. And that's
Mhm.
important because that's where you're going to put the granny stitches for the next one.
Hold
So
up your
it's
square
kind
one
of
more time.
unconventional. I'm sorry, do it again.
Hold up your square one more time.
I will do that.
And then where you slip stitch, you are slip stitching into that chain one space in the middle there. So
Yes,
pay
right.
real close attention to what the pattern says so that you get the look that you want to get at the end.
Right. Just a little hint because I don't put this in the pattern at all. You have 16 chain one spaces. A corner, which is two half double crochet, chain two, two half double crochet, happens every fourth.
Mm,
Right? So you work across to
yep.
create a side, then you have a corner in the fourth one. Then you work 3, then you have a
Mhm,
corner. So
mhm,
that's a pattern that shows up on that round. And that round and round 4, which I'm going to talk about next, probably are the trickiest.
mhm.
Um, so I'm just going to insert a personal opinion. You can disagree with me if you like. I am fine with that. But I'm a granny square purist, which means that in my mind, it's not a granny square unless it has at least one round of stitches, granny square.
Mhm, mhm.
That's what your round 4 is you have granny stitches in your round 4, right? So there we go. So round 4, which is the gray right there, you see our granny stitches. There are 3 along each side, and then you have corners.
Mhm,
You're going to work the first one after the corner in a chain 1 space. Then the second one, you're going to work in the slip stitch. The
mhm,
third one, you're going to work in that final chain 1 space, and then you're going to do a
mhm.
corner.
Yeah.
And I don't, let me see if, sometimes in granny squares, I don't think I put chain one spaces between the granny stitches. I did not.
Mhm,
Um, that's to keep the square from being uneven on the
mhm,
edges.
mhm.
Okay. Then
Um,
the final round,
yeah.
give us a drum roll, is one of one of my favorite stitches from 2024, which is that camel stitch or working in the third
Mhm,
loop. Now,
mhm.
again, I want to reiterate that Biz creates that look by doing it's a back post or front post on the back
Either way,
side or
yeah.
right or a back post on the front side, which turns that front loop, that top
Mhm.
loop to the front of the work, the right side of the work. I do it differently. I work it in the third loop. They get exactly the same result, right? But you're
For the
not going to
most
do
part.
that in here. Yes, I think yours might be a tad bulkier.
Yeah, mine's chunkier. I was just gonna say yours lays a little bit more flat. So if you're not looking to get that like oomph, you can still
Right.
achieve it by doing the third loop.
All right. The trick to round 5 is that in the corner, at the first stitch after a corner, is always hidden under these stitches. So you almost have to take those corner stitches, pull them to the right a teeny bit so that you can see, you just kind of flip it over toward you where you can see where to put your hook for that third loop. That stitch is super important because you
Mhm.
need 15 third loop stitches along each side to make the stitch count work, right? So just be sure that I have a note in online in the free pattern about making sure that you work into that hidden stitch. And
Mhm.
I can't reiterate enough, count, 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 count to make
Mhm.
sure that you come out with the right number of stitches.
Yeah, and once again, I know we've said this probably 100 times if once by now. Trust the process. Just because you whether you think that you're gonna have too many stitches going across or not, believe me, we have tested this pattern. And we've made adjustments for all of the different stitch counts of the squares, etc. Um, to do I'm sorry to make sure that there's 135 stitches across so that you are not lost in the weeds or that you're creating something that's too big. I know that a few people have had some concerns about their blankets kind of like pushing out in this particular section of the blanket because after section 2 it is a little bit roomier, but because we're putting those 135 stitches and then everything else is really going to pull it in. You might have to light block your blanket after you're done
Mhm.
before you put your border on, but it shouldn't be like real wonky. And I've put in my chat group on Facebook pictures of my blanket before I blocked it, and so it happened to all of us. It was
It
funky for
does. It
all of us.
does.
So
Right, because
don't
those
feel like you're
stitches
doing something
behave
wrong.
differently, right? Those
Mhm,
stitches all behave differently. And so when you combine this many
mhm,
different techniques and stitches in one item,
mhm.
it's going to pull it a little bit. So you
Yeah.
can't always depend on a straight edge like you could if you're just repeating a stitch up the side.
And then I wanted to talk about your square a little bit more because this is my favorite square of the whole blanket. I love this one. I love the front post one, but this one is my favorite to just look at because it is one of those ones where you could do it really super classy. You could, play it down and do it really country. You can do it real. It's just so cute, and the way that we have it in the blanket itself, where it's placed, I think it just adds so much personality, and it makes me feel like comfy pajama day. And but
Awesome.
for me, on the third round, I used the same color, and that was the way that I made my squares coordinate
Mhm.
while all being different because I used once again like I did with my um oh, the mitered square. I used like a main color, but then the rest of my squares, I've done a different color for all the other squares. So this one, I wanted to do kind of mix that where I had a main color, but then I also used the different colors for every square. So I still have a colorful
Yeah.
array of flowers going across, but they still all coordinate by just one row. one row of the
Mhm.
same color in each one. I know that was a long story to get to that, but
No, but I'm gonna wrap it up for you and make that a little more concise just to say, we have
mhm,
encouraged everybody all along to use your imagination, and we're seeing that come to light. So
mhm,
with these squares, while I will say I'm not entirely sure that working the entire square in the same color would have the same effect, 'cause, all of the different design elements would kind of blend together and get lost. But as
mhm.
Biz was saying, she did 2 consecutive rounds the same color, right? Or no, you used on one of the rounds, you used the same color for every square, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But
On round
changed the
3,
other
I used
ones.
that orange, but, like, the center, I did, one color, and then I think I finished row 5 or row 4, one of them, with the other color, and I still got my main color of the ivory in there, but then to
Mhm.
play with it so that I had other colors from the blanket in there, I think rows 1 and 4, and then 3 was the orange to tie them all in, and then I used my main color. So, I mean, I kinda went crazy because me and my color, but, I love this square so much, and you and I have talked, and hopefully it's gonna show up in another design later this year, so
Yay. Well, I know it's showing up in another design of mine because 'cause I'm
oh, for
working on it
sure.
right now.
Yeah.
But now that your blankets are you have 2 rows of squares and 2
Mhm,
sections done, you're starting to see how your blanket is
mhm,
coming together. So
mhm,
this is your opportunity to play around a little bit with combinations to
mhm.
see I think this is like the center of the blanket. This is
It
almost the
is,
center of the blanket, right?
it is.
So you could do something really creative to draw eyes into the center or
Mhm,
pull them out. So
mhm.
just think about how to play with those colors to do what
Yeah,
you want to do with your blanket at large. Yeah,
mhm.
it's really
And
cool.
I'm loving what everybody's doing, and so
Mhm.
many of them are like, "This is all from my stash." I'm like, "You guys have got the coolest stashes.
I'm telling you,
What is
I wish
wrong
I
with
had
me
that
and
kind
my
of stash.
colors?"
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
I
so
I
yeah.
I think those are all the tips and tricks. It's really
Mhm.
not a hard square,
Yeah.
but just pay attention like you have with the entire blanket. Once you do the first one, you'll get it for the other 7. It's really not a hard make, and you'll find that well, some people will have their strips sewn together tonight. So,
We're
I
so
don't know how you
fast.
do it, but good for you.
I know it took me, like, 2 days to sit down and do a whole strip, so, like, okay. Hashtag
I guess
goals, right?
I guess it depends upon how much other stuff you have going on, and we're trying to combine this with doing a business as well, so
Yeah,
makes it a
yeah.
little harder, but, no, I think you're gonna love it. You've got 3 days until
Yes.
section 3 comes out, so, again, if you have any questions, pop in our groups, show us all the crochet goodness because we love it, um, and that's it for the
Yes.
rustic
I'm
square.
excited to see everybody's stuff, so, other than that, I hope everybody has a wonderful Monday and your week is good, is a good week.
Happy crocheting no matter the weather. If you happen
Yes.
to be in California, I'm sorry. That's just ridiculous what's going on there, but I hope you're safe and
Mhm.
fine.
I don't follow the news, so I don't know what's going on. What's going on?
Much of California is buried under 10 to 12 feet of snow.
What?
Right, so
What?
go check the news.
Oh my god. Holy cow. Okay, so I'm fussing about my foggy days. I'm not fussing anymore.
No, no, no. All right, we should let you go because y'all want to get started on your squares.
Yes.
So, all right, bye from Madam Stitch.
Bye from Busy Crochet. We'll see you in a few days.
All right, bye bye, everybody.